No matter the location, from O-A-K-L-A to L-V, I'm a Raider.
Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raider Report. Today's show presented by Manscape. Go down in the comment section right now and start spamming balls, because your balls will thank you if you head on over to manscaped.com/Raiders, where you guys can save 20% off and get free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. Raiders rumors coming at you here from Mitchell Renz of Chat Sports. Will Julio Jones get traded? We're talking about Julio going to the Las Vegas Raiders here. And will Julio get traded? I'm going to give this one 4 Chucky Heads. Believe it, baby. I'm not saying he's going to get traded to the Raiders. That's coming up here in a little bit. I'm simply saying, do I believe that he is going to get traded from the Atlanta Falcons? Yes. Yes, I do. Julio Jones didn't really know he was on Undisputed. He was called by Sharp and basically was like, yeah, man, I'm out of Atlanta. And rumors have been swirling around for months. I've seen reports from people that I personally trust and say, yeah, Julio Jones is definitely going to be out of there. The reason why that this is important, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because June 1st, which is today, is the day that we've been talking about for a long time. And the Falcons have been waiting for today. It said, hey, we can save $15.3 million by trading him after today. What does that mean? You're going to see a trade with Julio happen between now and by the time training camp starts. So keep that in mind. Make sure you guys are glued to your TV. The next story coming up here is around the Raiders and whether or not they should trade for Julio Jones. He's a phenomenal player. And I'm going to give you my answer, but first, I'm going to make you go down in the comments section and let me know what y'all are thinking. Do you want the Las Vegas Raiders to go out and trade for Julio Jones? You're like, you know what, Mitch? Hell yeah, man. This guy's an incredible receiver, top 5 when healthy. I want you to type Y for yes. If you're like, you know what, he's injury prone, he's getting up there in age a little bit, I want to stay young, then you can go ahead and type your N for no. For me, this one is 4 Chucky Heads, dude. I'm typing my Y for yes. If you have an opportunity to get better at any position, you go ahead and do it. If you have an opportunity to get a top 5 player at a position, you go ahead and do it. Julio Jones is still a top 5 receiver when fully healthy, in my personal opinion. We've seen Derek Carr when he's had a number 1 receiver. He's been very good. If you're telling me right now I can have Julio Jones, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs all in the field at one time, where the hell do I sign up? And I actually think this. Yes, he might take targets away from Ruggs and Edwards, but he would be a phenomenal mentor to those two dudes. And for everyone out there that's like, oh, he didn't have a good year last year, if you look at his 9 games on screen, 771 yards, you know what? That's about 85 yards per game. That is incredible. That's almost 1,300 yards he would have had if he would have played an entire 16-game schedule. And to everyone out there like, oh, he's injury prone, my dude has missed 11 games since 2014. Does that really sound injury prone to me? I get that once in a while he might have a lingering hamstring injury or he might have something that pops up, but the dude still goes out there and plays. And even an 80%, 75% Julio Jones, that's like a top 20 receiver. These numbers simply do not lie. The other reason why I will go out there and say, yes, you go out and trade for him, the money actually makes a lot of sense, because if you look, people are like, oh, you got to pay him $22 million per year. That's not true. If the Falcons trade Julio Jones, the Raiders will only have to pay him $15.3 million in 2021, which is pretty good money if you ask me, and then $11 million in 2022 and 2023. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not he might want to restructure his contract, but if you're telling me right now, I got to pay an average of like, what, $12, $13 million for Julio Jones over the next 3 years? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you're looking for one-stop shop for all the latest Raiders news and rumors, you are in the right place. Go ahead and subscribe to the Las Vegas Raiders Report and turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss anything, because if Julio does get traded, we're going to be breaking it down for here. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm a very competitive person. Over the last 28 days, here's where it ranks in terms of the most subscribers for our YouTube channels here at Chat Sports. The Bears Now channel, beating us. Cowboys Report, kicking our butt. 49ers, beating our butt. The Raiders right now rank 4th among all of our channels here with most subscribers the past 28 days. And if I'm being honest, we're about to get passed by the Seattle Seahawks. The reason why I bring this up is because the way that we do videos here at Chat Sports is simple. The more subs you get, the more videos you get. I like the fact that I do a video every single day for this channel. I don't want to lose that ability. So please help me out. Spread the word. Go ahead and subscribe to the Raiders Report and turn on those notifications. That way if something does happen, you guys will know about it. Next story coming up here on the Raiders Report is Julio Jones headed to the Las Vegas Raiders. So I told you, Is he going to get traded for Chucky Heads? Should the Raiders do it for Chucky Heads? Are we getting another 4 Chucky Heads? Unfortunately, I'm going to give this one only 1 Chucky Head, and I'm going to say it's a small shred of truth in terms of the Raiders going out and getting him. Like, I get it. I've seen all the stories all over the internet and said, hey, the Raiders are the one team that is aggressively pursuing Julio Jones. That's fine. The Raiders, I get it. You still need a true number 1 receiver. John Gruden still wants a number 1 guy. I have seen everything around it. The Falcons, as I know personally, they're looking for a first-round pick. Personally, I do not believe that they're going to get a first-rounder. I think it's going to end up taking something like a second-round pick, and then you can sprinkle in a player, maybe 2, depending on the value of that player. If you want to throw in a better player, maybe it's a third-round pick. All I'm saying is this. The Raiders have the draft capital to be able to do it. The main reason why I'm going to go with 1 Chucky Head, though, I like odds. And when I see odds and see that the Raiders have the 5th best odds to go out and get them, it's hard for me to give it 2 Chucky Heads people are talking. And at plus 900, the 5th best odds on this list, I mean, I think the Seahawks make a lot of sense for Julio. I think the Titans make a lot of sense for Julio. The only team on this list that I'm like, I don't understand why he would go there is the Patriots, because Cam Newton, he stinks. Other 5 teams here for Julio. 49ers, he could rekindle his relationship with Kyle Shanahan, where dude once had 136 catches. If the Packers can keep Aaron Rodgers, that move makes a lot of sense. Dolphins, Cowboys, doesn't make any sense to me. Even the Chargers, if they want to build around Herbert. However, I don't see that being very likely. So give me your one-word reaction here, Raider Nation. If the Raiders pull off this trade and Julio Jones is in silver and black, what I want you to do is give me your one-word reaction. And if you guys haven't seen already, I posted on Twitter that I would drink 11 beers in 6 minutes if the Raiders were able to pull off this deal. If you don't believe me, go check it out. Give me your one-word reaction if the Raiders trade for Julio Jones. My one-word reaction is ball out, because this offense, Derek Carr, Julio Jones, I'm just telling you all right now, it would absolutely ball out. There were times last season where this offense looked almost unbeatable, and now you add somebody like Julio Jones to the mix? Dude, we're going to be doing watch parties. We're going to be getting wild here on the Raiders Report. If the Raiders end up pulling this deal off, we are going to absolutely ball out. If the Raiders do end up balling out with Julio Jones, hopefully y'all can ball out too. But you don't want your balls to look all bad. That's where Manscape comes in. And today's show is presented by my good friend. So head on over to manscape.com/Raiders, where you guys can save 20% off and get free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. Make sure you guys are using that promo code Raiders as well. That way we get some credit around here. So the reason why I love these products, they just released the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. I've never tried it on my actual grass, but it trims my George W. very well, so I would imagine this might actually be better than most lawnmowers you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. Not a sponsor. So if you head on over to manscape.com/Raiders, you guys can save 20% off. It's got an awesome battery life. It's not going to vibrate a lot in your hand. You can use it in the shower, and it's got a new sleek design. I've never seen Star Wars, but this looks like something straight out of the Death Star. I'm just telling y'all right now, which is absolutely perfect with the Raiders' new stadium. I'm just telling you this. I use this product probably once a week. One of my other favorite things about it is the the changeable blade. So if you want to shave your downstairs, if you want to shave your back, if you want to shave your chest, you can use different blades, because if you're using the same blade for all those areas, I really question your ability to make good decisions. So make a good decision here. Use code Raiders at manscape.com/Raiders. All right, y'all. Ruggs, this guy needs to step up. That's the next story here on the Las Vegas Raiders Report. So how many Chucky Heads on this one? 4 Chucky Heads. Henry Ruggs needs to step up. This one is from David Carr. Not Derek Carr, David Carr. Yes, the brother of Derek, though. So basically, David went on his show on NFL Network and said, Ruggs, this is a guy that really needs to be able to step up, because if Derek wants to take the next step, he needs his guy Ruggs to do it. The reason why I wanted to be able to put this on the show is because he said 2 very interesting things. First one was that Derek absolutely loves playing with Ruggs. He loves the chemistry they have. The only thing that he wishes that Ruggs would do is translate what he does in practice to the game field. Now, the most interesting quote was this. David quoted Derek and said, in practice, Henry Ruggs is the greatest player Derek has ever played with. Think about that for a second. Henry Ruggs, the greatest player Derek Carr has ever played with in practice. Now, if Allen Iverson was watching the show right now, he'd be like, practice. However, we always say practice how you play. And if Ruggs can practice really well, you're hoping that that translates to the football field. And when you look at his numbers on screen here, the 26 catches, 452 yards, he's able to stretch the field. But he needs to be able to be a little bit better on those underneath routes. He needs to be able to be a little bit better catching the football and contested, when it's contested, because he averaged 17.4 yards per catch. I also believe he was top 5 in the NFL in air yards per target. The Raiders try to get him going, but for everything that I personally see, he bulked up this year. He worked on his route running, and he's working on his chemistry with Derek Carr. I listed him as a breakout player. I listed this guy because he has all the tools. And if you can sit down and honestly look at Henry Ruggs and tell me you don't think this guy has all the tools, I question you. However, he does need to grow up a little bit. He needs to get it all going up here. The question is, though, can he ultimately do it? Now, the real reason why David ultimately decided to bring this up is because you got Julio Jones rumors spreading all over the place, right? And the reason why it's brought up is because Derek Carr doesn't have a true number one receiver. At least, that's what I think. That's what David thinks. That's what a lot of Raider Nation thinks. But when you draft somebody in the top 12 of the 2020 NFL draft, you're hoping that he can be that number one guy. So the question that I'm going to hit y'all with is this. Who is the better receiver right now? If you're sitting there like, you know what? It's Henry Ruggs. That's the guy I want. I want you to type HR for Ruggs. If you're like, yeah, I'm going to go Julio Jones, I want you to type JJ for Julio Jones. As it stands right now, and this is no disrespect to Ruggs, I listed him as a breakout player. Well, that should show you that I'm excited to see what he can do. But right now, it's clearly Julio. And if you could bring in Julio to be that number one receiver this year, Ruggs and Bryan Edwards can learn underneath him. And let's just say you don't want to keep Julio around for too long. Okay, I guarantee you could trade him the next offseason, and you'd get a lot in return for him. All I'm saying is, in terms of right now, it's clearly Julio Jones. So let's go to this next question here. Will Ruggs ever be a top 10 wide receiver? I want you to type F for sure, or type U for unlikely. The other reason why I did this is because it's not too often that I can put FU on the screen and not get in trouble. So for sure or unlikely, will Henry Ruggs ever be a top 10 receiver? Because if you're sitting here telling me it's unlikely, then you absolutely go out and make a move for Julio Jones. If you're saying it's F for sure, then maybe you don't end up doing it. Hopefully, he can be. However, being a top 10 receiver is not an easy thing to do. Can he be top 20? Possibly. But top 10, I'm going to sit here and say no. And if I'm being 100% real with y'all, if you were to tell me which receiver do I think could have the better chance of being top 10, if he can stay healthy, I might actually go Bryan Edwards over Henry Ruggs. Signing KJ Wright, that's where we're going next here on the Las Vegas Raiders Report. I'm going to give this one only one Chucky Heads. It's a small shred of truth. There was an article out there by Bleacher Report that tried to go out and say, here's one move that every NFL team needs to end up doing. They list KJ Wright signing with the Las Vegas Raiders because he's a great defender. He has a good relationship with Bradley, which is 100% true, and he's an old player but can still be a strong starter. Again, all these things are true. The reason why I'm giving it one Chucky Head is because the Raiders' linebacking core is pretty set as it stands right now, and if they do go out and spend money, and Wright's going to be expensive, at least I personally believe he will. I don't know if it's going to be at the linebacking position, but if you were to tell me right now, if Wright would be willing to take a contract like Casey Hayward in terms of a vet-friendly deal, I would take that in a heartbeat because this dude is one of the best linebackers in the league. He can cover, he can tackle, he can be an absolute captain from top to bottom. Plus, he's a very versatile player. I mean, look at these snaps in 2020. 990 snaps last season, 34% against the run, 11% against the pass, and then 55% in coverage. He can do it all, and he does everything at a very, very high level. What would be interesting, then, is what exactly happens with a guy like Corey Littleton, Nick Wachowski, Nicholas Morrow. How does Divine Diablo end up certain in there? Javen White, does he actually even make the roster? Because if you were telling me right now we got KJ Wright, Corey Littleton, Nick Wachowski, Nicholas Morrow, Divine Diablo, that's the best linebacking core in the NFL, and I'm not afraid to say that. So be honest with me here, y'all. Type S for sign, P for pass. Should the Raiders go out and sign KJ Wright? And if you're like, man, this guy has asked me a lot of questions on today's show. That's what the Raiders Report's about, man. It's about the interaction. It's about giving the nation a voice. So S for sign or P for pass. Now, I tell you all the time, hit me up on IG, MitchellRens365. I want to be able to show you this cool little photo over here. I was hanging out in Austin, Texas this weekend with the DFW Raiders for Life softball team, and just going to be honest, we came away, we got first place, but the really cool part about this was This was the first annual Silver and Black Wounded Warrior softball tournament where there were a whole bunch of teams from from Texas ended up joining. And we raised close to $3,000. So if you guys have an awesome thing going on in the offseason, like during June, July, August, if you have a fundraiser that you want to do, if you want to get me involved some way, all you got to do, hit me up on Instagram, MitchellRens365. It's by far the easiest way. And hey, if you're not first, you're last. And we took home number one. All right, let's go to the last story here. Las Vegas, they set up Lynn Bowden Jr. to fail. I saw this story last week, and I was like, you know what? I understand it was last week, but I really want to talk about it this week. So what do y'all think about this? I want you to type 4 for Believe It, baby, if you thought that the Las Vegas Raiders set up Lynn Bowden to fail. Or I want you to type 0 for Tuck Rule, Tuck That. If you're going to type 4 for Believe It, baby, you're probably in the camp of like, hey, it's an off season. He was a quarterback, running back, wide receiver. They tried to make him do something that he didn't want to do. If you're typing 0 for Tuck Rule, Tuck That, you and I, we agree. Now, no disrespect to Bowden, but he just flat out said, the Raiders set me up to fail. And if you remember, they drafted him number 79 overall, I believe, in round 3. And Bowden, he wanted to play slot. That's why he's saying that, hey, man, I was totally screwed over by this team because he felt that he was better than Hunter Renfrow. The reason why I'm going to give this a 0 Chucky Heads, Tuck Rule, Tuck That is because Lynn Bowden, and I think a lot of these young athletes, and I think it's one of the toughest things to do as a young and up-and-coming adult, you need to admit when you were bad. And if you watched all the practice reports, if you watched a lot of the camp highlights, Bowden's getting blown up in the backfield. He wasn't able to catch the football. He was a terrible pass blocker. In fact, I remember a viral video last offseason. Bowden trying to play running back, goes to try to block, I forget who it was, and gets absolutely blasted and falls over. And plus, if you're going to sit here and tell me you wanted to be a wide receiver, you got to catch the football. One of the biggest complaints from Gruden and Mayock was that this dude wasn't catching the ball. Now, I get it. He was drafted to be a joker, okay? And what does that mean exactly? It means somebody that could probably line up at quarterback here and there, somebody that could line up at running back and wide receiver. And that's very difficult to be able to learn in your first year in a COVID season. But you know what? That's also the reason why you were drafted in the 3rd round, because if you were drafted to play just receiver, you weren't going in round 3. You weren't going in round 4. You weren't going in round 5. So as far as I'm concerned, you didn't live up to the expectations the Raiders set for you. So it's time to man up and actually think about what you're saying. So who do y'all think is the better slot receiver, Hunter Renfrow or Lynn Bowden Jr.? I expect every single person that comes across this video right now to spam 13. And if anybody types 15, y'all are absolutely crazy. Better slot receiver, Renfrow or Lynn Bowden Jr.?